Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you, or whatever time you are watching this. So this is my second session for HealthFlix. Let me just turn the camera down just a little bit. Fantastic. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you, or whatever time you are watching this. So this is my second session for HealthFlix. Oh, it's happening twice. Just give me 1 second. I don't know why that is the case. I'm going to have to stop this and start it again. My apologies. Sorry, everybody. I'm a little bit new to the process of live streaming, and this was my first one. But here we go. So today I want to focus on the value of breathing for strengthening the lungs and to use a specific practice. Now, I've been doing free seminars for the last couple of weeks, and you can look those up. And there's a bunch of different tools that I've been offering. But I didn't actually record the very first one that I was doing. So I wanted to review that for everybody. I also wanted to express a few additional things that we can all be doing right now to strengthen our lungs. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, but actually vitamin D has been shown to reduce inflammatory factors within the lungs, meaning that we are less likely to feel as unwell if we do get sick. So that's very important. There's also research supporting the use of green tea. So you can drink your green tea, especially if you like it. But please do start taking vitamin D. One of the greatest dangers of the coronavirus is actually that when we have it, we have this hyper-inflammatory response to it, especially as we age. So if we can slightly curb that, this may be beneficial. And in order to keep the lungs healthy, we must continue to exercise. Having strong breathing that occurs with rigorous exercise works the lungs and will keep them well. That being said, I'm going to offer some very basic techniques and some variations depending upon how you're feeling today and also your psychological state. You may or may not wish to do aspects of this, and I will be providing alternatives for everybody. So we're going to start with Vijaya Breathing, which I taught on Monday for the opening session of Netflix. And then we're going to graduate to another yoga breathing practice for those of us that are feeling relatively healthy this morning and are also not feeling highly anxious. This practice is called Kapalabhati, and it's a strong breath that expels air from the lungs with great force. And it does really help to work the lungs. And it is associated with increasing the strength. And when we match it with doing slow controlled breathing like Ujjayi, in other words, we start with Ujjayi, then we do Kapalabhati, and then Ujjayi again, we enhance the ability after doing it to breathe really efficiently. And you might sense that after doing it, but also we have an added psychological benefit, which is this. When we are able to do something calming and then lift and then come back down, we afford greater flexibility to our autonomic nervous system, the nervous system involved in either fight and flight or rest and digest. And at a time right now where many of us are feeling overwhelmed and anxious, we really want to support that capacity, something we call heart rate variability, essentially the ability of the heart rate to lift and lower with ease, and that variation to be quite marked. And that is a measure of cardiovascular and also neurological health. But if we're feeling anxious already this morning, we might not want to have any lift at all. And if that's the case for you, absolutely fine. You'll just do the calming technique and you will have great benefit from doing it. So Ujjayi breath, or translated into English as ocean breathing. It is like this. We inhale, we exhale, making this noise. Now, why that? Because making this noise comes from a slight tightening in the trachea, in the larynx region. And when we do that, we have much greater control over the breath. And also, this manner of breathing allows for slow, steady movement within the lungs, which messages back up to the brain to suggest that we are healthy, well, and at ease. So if you're familiar with Ujjayi breath, please go ahead and just begin. If you are a newbie to Ujjayi breath, follow my directions. And you're going to just do it on the exhalation today. So for the newbies, you're going to imagine that you have a mirror in front of you. Look up at it. Inhale naturally, and we're going to fog up that mirror. Doesn't have to be as loud as me. Inhale naturally. Really good. One more time. And release. Now we actually want this breath to come out of the nose, not the mouth. But when we focus on trying to make the breath come out of the nose, if we're new to it, we can reverse sniff. To avoid that, you can imagine that you have a nose on your throat. I know it's a little strange, and that you breathe out of that. In order to support it, place your hands at the throat. And you're going to inhale naturally again if you're a newbie. Exhale long. Inhale naturally. Exhale long, ocean breath through the throat. So now all of us are doing this. We are all inhaling either with or without Ujjayi and exhaling Ujjayi. And as I expressed in my last session, when we elongate the exhalation, we send messages from our vagus, our major cranial nerve, or our largest one, I should say, which mediates the response of rest and digest, the parasympathetic response. We send messages down it to the sinoatrial node of the heart, calming the heart down. So that's what we're doing, right? Every exhalation, we are calming down the heart. And when the exhalation is stronger than the inhalation, and longer, I should say, more than stronger, we are really providing a rest to the heart. And we want to do that. We want to do that before we do strong breathing. So we teach the nervous system how to come from a point of relaxation. And then to lift, to go into mobilized state or sympathetic state. And then to train to come back down. So we become resilient. And of course, as we do this, we are also strengthening our lungs. So we have these dual benefits. We're going to continue like this with the Ujjayi breath elongating the exhale for the next 2 minutes. And really bring your mind to the breath. I know you can hear my voice. I hope it's an anchor for you as you bring the mind back and resist rumination and discursive thought in the name of focusing on your breathing. Inhaling Ujjayi, exhaling long. Now, for those of us who would prefer to continue with Ujjayi, for example, you're very anxious right now and you don't want to do a lifting breath, continue. For those of us that would like to try to work this kind of resiliency and further strengthening of the lungs, I invite you to do so. I should also say that if you're an anxious person, but not anxious right now, this is a really good training for you because you do need to learn to lift and then to lower again. Now, this is what Kapalabhati looks like. I'm just going to move back a tiny bit so you can see, right? So it's a forced exhalation. It's hard to both see my head and my belly at the same time, right? Without moving back further. Forced exhalation from the belly like this. And it comes out, if you saw, the nose. So it's not, it's, let's all try that together, those of us doing this. It doesn't have to be that harsh. It can be more gentle. Like that. Okay. Now, when we do Kapalabhati, we do a series of rounds. So we do sometimes 30 or 60. I'm going to invite you to do 60 with me, but if you're new to it, you might want to stop at 30. And when you stop, so it would look like this. Inhale your breath. Exhale. And then inhale, hold for 10 seconds and wait for the next round, right? So after you finish, you inhale, you exhale, you inhale, you hold for 10 seconds. You exhale, and then you wait for the next round. So we're going to do this together. And one more thing. There is something unique about breathing very intensely that likely releases certain neurotransmitters of the brain, like glutamate, that it can help us to almost immediately lay down new memories. So I'm going to ask you when doing the Kapalabhati, and I know it's a lot to focus on, to also bring your mind to something for you that is pleasant. So you develop these positive associations and the potential for shifting circuitry. So let's begin now. And I'm going to do 60 rounds, but of course, you can do fewer if you prefer. We'll do a light version, beginning now. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And hold. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And let's begin again. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And let's hold. Exhale. Inhale. Sometimes things actually come up. And let's go again. It's very clearing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And then we're going to hold for a count of 30. For those of you that would like to. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And now we are going to work on bringing the nervous system back down. This may have been a little lift for you or a significant one. And to do that, come back to inhaling with or without ujjayi, depending on whether or not you're familiar with it, and an elongated ujjayi exhalation. When I teach this for anxiety management and for resiliency, we do the ujjayi for 5 minutes after to really train the nervous and respiratory system. So that's what we're going to do. Inhaling ujjayi if you want to, but definitely exhaling ujjayi, a longer ujjayi. And it's so important that you do not force the breath out, you don't push it out, and that you don't pull the breath in. If you want to have maximum benefit from this practice, you actually need to be very subtle and gentle with the Ujjayi breath. Very subtle and gentle. So keep that as your focus. Keeping the mind on the simplicity of the breath, knowing that even though it's basic and it's subtle, that it's powerful. And in fact, it is the very basic yogic breathing techniques like Ujjayi that are probably the most transformative and the safest. Somebody asked while you're practicing, how do you inhale Ujjayi? So if you're new to it, it's that same thing where you're imagining the nose at your throat and you're inhaling from there. It's like a reverse sigh. The reason that I'm not suggesting it's taught to you now if you're new is it takes a little time for you to develop fluency with Ujjayi, and it's easier on the exhalation. And so you should be doing that for a few days before you invite in the inhale. But when you're ready, it's the same thing. And often people feel a bit clumsy with it in the first instance. And as they continue, they can make the same noise on the inhale. And it can feel really kind of silky and smooth and not harsh. Keeping the mind on the breath. Be willing to engage in the subtlety. Not worrying about how much longer you're doing it or what we're going to do next, but allowing your mind just really to rest on this practice. When there is concentration and focus, you're recruiting, by the way, more neurological pathways and circuits, heightening the beneficial value of this. By the way, I will answer all of your questions when we get to the question section in just about 10 minutes. So if you could just practice in the meantime so you accrue the benefits, that would be wonderful. For now, let it be. For now, just breathe. Let that kind of analytical thinking go for a moment. Okay. And take one more ocean breath. And we're going to do one more thing to lift, which is not as lifting. So I think everybody can do this, even if they're a little anxious right now. And then just a little bit more Ujjayi. to really have that practice of coming up, coming down, coming up, coming down. If any of you are familiar with interval training in exercise, it's the same thing, right? But we can do it through breathing, and it's incredibly powerful through breathing, right? And possibly more powerful in managing the stress response because of the relationship between breath and our autonomic nervous system, or fight and flight, or rest and digest. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to move a little bit back so you can see my arms. There we go. And this was actually taught to me by somebody else who's going to be speaking, Amy Weintraub. It's called the breath of joy. And this is what it looks like. It's an inhale, and then an inhale to the sides, and then an inhale up, and then we fold forward and exhale through the mouth. But it's done really quickly. So you're like a conductor. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Let's do it together. Inhale, 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 inhale. 3 more times. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Lifting and waking. Inhale, inhale, inhale. Exhale. Inhale, you are a conductor. Inhale, inhale with your breath. Once more. Great. And now we're just going to do a few more moments of Vijaya breath again, providing that resilience, that up and down, which is so powerful in giving you the ability to manage the vicissitudes of life. So come back to your Vijaya. Inhaling Ujjayi, if you're familiar with it. And everybody exhaling Ujjayi. Everybody. Now just talk a little bit while you do this. And you can hear me in the background, and you can ignore me if you'd like. So it's hypothesized that slow, controlled breathing actually messages to the brain, right? Well, that's not hypothesized. That we know that we're safe, we're calm, and that through that process, we increase the release of a neurotransmitter called GABA, which helps us to calm down, which actually inhibits fear-based pathways. And that when we do rapid, quick breathing, we increase that neurotransmitter I talked about, glutamate, that builds new circuits. GABA can also build new circuits, but probably not as quickly. Glutamate's role is to do that at rapid speed. But when we are releasing high levels of GABA through slow, controlled breathing, and then glutamate through fast breathing, and then again GABA, glutamate, back and forth, we're really shifting the neurochemical climate. And I believe, and I often work in this way, that when we do that, we are providing an opportunity, almost the ground of fertilization for greater change as to how we think, how we perceive things, and our habits. So I will use practices like this to help to dislodge my own habits and those also of other people, the clients that I work with. And I teach my teachers to do the same, my yoga therapists that I train. So we're just going to do 2 more minutes of the Ujjayi. And then we're going to go into a little meditation, just a short one. Using this quite opened neurological landscape to help the mind to develop its attentional control, its ability to see itself. So it's such a nice precursor, this kind of practice to meditation. Okay. So just bring your mind away from the Ujjayi breath. Let the Ujjayi breath go. Let the controlled breathing go. And now just focus on a natural inhale and exhale. It's often easier to let the mind rest on the breath after we have done breathing control practices or pranayama, because we can feel the breath so clearly, because we've exercised the respiratory tract. So just watch. Watch as the inhale enters the nose. Feel the sensations. And watch as the exhale naturally exits. Maybe even see the pause in between. And as thinking arises, simply notice the thinking is happening. Maybe you note thinking, thinking, thinking. And you bring it back. You bring it back. You bring the mind back to just the inhale and the exhale. Telling the mind, all those things, I'll think about them in a moment. Right now, I'm just training the mind to be with the breath, to learn how to stay with an object that I choose. To learn how to find peace and ease when there is busyness. I'm training myself, mind, to do that. And thinking will occur again. And you notice, and maybe you note it, and then you come back. Come back to the breathing. Come back to the natural breathing. Just this. Again, it is the simplicity that often provides the greatest opportunity for transformation. It's not the fancy stuff. It's basic things. And that's good news, because it means that they're not that hard to practice. We're going to come out of this short meditation. But actually, if while I'm answering the questions, you just want to continue focusing on your breath and watching your mind and noticing the hearing of my voice, I invite you to do so. So everyone, HealthFlix, by the way, has been really amazing. The last, this is the third day, the last 2 days. We've had such good speakers. And please do go to the YouTube channel to watch other things that have already happened that are of interest to you. And keep watching the webpage, because we are loading new talks all the time. Our schedule for next week is super busy, 10 talks a day, and we'll consider whether we will have this move forward into the following week beyond that. If you like these kinds of practices that I'm offering, by the way, you can always look at the Minded Institute. I didn't introduce myself because I kind of did that last time, but I'm Heather Mason. I think you knew that part. I own the Minded Institute, a yoga therapy organization. We do lots of training, and also I'm the founder of the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance. So if you want any more information about these kinds of things, you can look there. And I do a lot of other free seminars as well during this period, if you want to continue to breathe with me. Now let me see the questions. We have quite a bit, so let's see what I can get through. Oh, how do you spell these breathing techniques? Okay, so Ujjayi, I'm going to put it in the chat, is spelled like this. And by the way, different people spell these techniques differently, but it'll come up for you, right? Because it is moving from a non-phonetic alphabet, right? Coming from Sanskrit. How often do you suggest we do these breathing practices? So actually, I suggest that you do Ujjayi breathing every single day. And if you have the capacity, because it can take time to build our tolerance to it, it would be great if you could do it for 25 minutes. And if the Kapalabhati feels comfortable for you and you feel able to do it both physiologically and psychologically, you can add that in as well. But this should be like hygiene. You should be doing it every single day, okay? So for all of you. And what's important to me, one of the reasons that I founded HealthFlix was in hope that you would all find something that would really speak to you and you would continue doing that thing, or many things, right? I don't know why you can't see the spelling, by the way, but it's up there. I will try to put it somewhere else. Oh, I see, it's on private. Let me see if I can do it again, 1 second. But yeah, can you find something here that speaks to you, do it every day, and transform your life through that? Now, what do I think of the Wim Hof method? Actually, I love it. I practice the Wim Hof method, but you will never get me in the cold shower. I feel like that is a form of torture for me uniquely due to how much I love the heat that I simply cannot manage. But I do believe that because of the lift to the nervous system, we do need to be mindful of doing Wim Hof breathing if we are not healthy and well, right? So it's something that I think can really enhance our health and well-being, but it's not something for people with breathing problems, in my personal opinion, or with definitely high blood pressure, heart disease, and a host of other things, but I really love it. Okay, my diaphragm aches during Kapalabhati. Is this a normal start of the practice as a beginner? Yes, it is. If it's like super, super achy, no, but you're really working the diaphragm, which is healthy. Remember, it's a muscle. And so that's not a bad thing. But so that it doesn't become too uncomfortable, have your Kapalabhati slower. So rather than the speed that I was doing, maybe just and build it up slowly and do fewer rounds. Here's another question. I do both breaths after my daily practice. However, doing it with you, I could feel my muscles in my neck. Should I feel that each day? That's a more complicated question because I need more information about that, Emma. Not necessarily, but also it could be of benefit. It depends, because I was teaching a very light form of Kapalabhati where the breath was a little bit higher up rather than the really strong form where you're going, where you might not feel it as much because you're feeling your abdominal muscles more, move more. Really, I could only answer that question with more information. I'm sorry. I do not understand the words after inhale as, well, I guess that was a bit late for that question. Let's see. How long to do the warming breath? Could somebody clarify what the warming breath is for that question? Because I don't know. I don't know what you mean, but if you mean the Ujjayi breathing, you can do it for 25 minutes a day, up to that long. Here's another one. Is the breathing practice down with closed eyes if you're anxious? I think what you mean is, can you do it with closed eyes? And yes, you can. You can definitely do it with closed eyes. And in fact, I generally prefer to do that. But if anybody is nervous about having their eyes closed, you can always have them just downcast. If we are taking asthma medication, as in a steroid inhaler, do you recommend taking it before or after Ujjayi breath? I don't want to provide medical advice here, but I will say this, that if you do have asthma, please use your inhaler whenever you need it, okay? Is it okay to feel the Ujjayi breathing out on your vocal cords? Guessing they're just warming up. I think we will feel it within our vocal cords, but we shouldn't feel it too strongly. If we are, we're probably doing it too harshly, so please just keep it very simple and gentle. Is it okay to feel the Ujjayi breathing out of your vocal cords? Okay, done with that question. Is this practice helpful with menopause symptoms and joint pain? That's a great question. To be mindful of the fact that Kapalabhati can be quite lifting and heating, so I wouldn't necessarily use that, but the Ujjayi should be helpful. Traditionally, for menopause, we do something called Sitali or Sitkari, where we try and use cooling breath, where we just stick out the tongue if we can. Some of us can do this and roll it. And breathe in like this, and then out through the nose. You can use that long breathing. That I would recommend more. For joint pain, though, Ujjayi breath should be very good. Because again, Ujjayi breath has this capacity to really evoke parasympathetic response. And when we do this, there is usually a reduction in pain experience. I'd love to go over the neuroscience of that, but I can't in this session. The fast breathing technique has made me cough a lot and to clear my throat, which is tickly. Was I doing it wrong? Not necessarily. Often in the beginning that happens. Also, if you have something within your lungs, that can also occur. Like you notice that happened for me, and I felt a clearing. If this is happening regularly every time you practice, then maybe it's not for you. But if you're feeling it in the beginning, it's not necessarily an issue. And also if you have just a minor cold. For those of you, though, that might have COVID-19, please do not do the Kapalabhati practice. Okay. What else? Breath of joy. Are all three breaths taken without exhaling in between? Yes, they are. They are all taken without anything in between, without exhaling. So you're really lifting the nervous system because the inhalation is a lift. And that's why we were using it as a counterbalance to the Ujjayi breathing. Let's see. I do have something to teach soon, so I can't answer many other questions, but let me try to see. That would be a really interesting talk about the parasympathetic system and link to pain, please. Okay. Well, I will certainly consider doing it. I am doing some paid sessions and short ones. And so you can look on the Minded Institute website. I'll consider that as well. Would there be a scope for a future session going over the neuroscience of these? Possibly. I have a few more sessions going, but that's difficult to do in a 30-minute period, to be honest, or 45 minutes. That's more the kind of stuff that we do on the Minded Institute. In fact, we have this like anxious brain, rewiring the anxious brain, 2-hour workshop, and you can join that. But I'll think of how I might be able to get it into one of these free talks. I'm not sure. It's more of a complicated answer, and I'd like to do it right. So just 2 more. With the fast tummy breathing, are you exhaling as the tummy moves in? Yes, you are. And because that can be a little bit complicated, Can you do it quite slowly in the beginning to get into the habit? Does the last breathing practice we did have a name? Yes, it's called the breath of joy. And actually, there's an added benefit from this practice that often I use, which is, you know, when you wake up in the morning and you're super lethargic and you think, I don't want to do any kind of practice. I'm way too tired. You can get out of bed on the way to the loo, where we usually go when we leave our bed in the morning, and just do this a few times. And often what it does is it stimulates the brain a little bit, making it a bit easier to move into maybe another practice afterwards. Thank you for all of your lovely questions. And I would stay here and answer them, except I have a all-day lecture to give at 9 o'clock on Zoom, training people in how to use yoga in healthcare for a different program. So I'm so sorry that I'm going to have to end this now. But do join me. I will consider your questions, and I will try my best, since I'm doing some other sessions, to answer them. And thank you. Be well, and take good care of yourselves, please. Use this time to take good care of yourselves. Leah, I can't seem to stop streaming. Can you tell me what to do? It's not coming up for me. Can I make you the host and you can do it? I can't.